Ofer. Thank you for talking to me. I know you have a very busy schedule. I know that, lots of appointments, and you took the time to talk to me. So
yes. I like people who are taking initiative, starting a YouTube channel.
That's so kind of you.
Yes.
Starting from the very beginning in Tel Aviv, where you were born, and you say that your parents, your family has a history of mysticism and occult practices, and you were first introduced to these when you were a child. So, would you like to talk about that first?
I was born in Tel Aviv on the border of Jaffa. And Tel Aviv, Jaffa, it's a beach city. It's a beach city. And I was born in Tel Aviv, and I was born in an apartment that's facing the sea. So if you see on my Facebook, you will see a lot of posts connected to the sea.
Yes.
This is something I love the sea very much. I also now I live in a beach city, and I walk in the morning. I like it. The sea makes me feel always energized. So I was born in Tel Aviv, in a big city, and in our community, like in the area, in the place where I live, there were Muslims and Jews living together. And I was, from very young age, I was very impressed, and I was always interested to see how they make the old people, the old people in the city, how they make medical herbs, and how they make medicines, and people who used to do coffee reading, because in this place, in the Middle East, coffee reading is very, very popular. So it started like that. Then I slowly started to ask questions when I was young, and then my mother and my father told me that in our family we have a few people who are very much into the occult, into predictions and and doing some spiritual work. And then I started to get to know them. I wanted to get close to my grandfather, who used to do it. He was living in another city. So my mother and my parents used to take me every Saturday. I used to see what he's doing. I learned a lot from them. And I also had the opportunity to meet coffee readers. One of them, she was like my godmother, and she was reading coffee for people, and I learned a lot from her. I mean, not many people know that. They know me as an astrologer, a tarot reader, and a person who know a little Kabbalah, a person who do all that. But they don't know. Many people don't know that I have a little knowledge in coffee reading and some even palm reading. This is how I started. This was my first steps into the world, into the occult world. This was my first steps.
How old were you that time? When the
first... I was young. It's all started around 11 to 12 years old. It's all started at the age of 17 and 18, 16, 17 and 18. I was already making medical herbs, medicines to many people in our community. I was not famous yet. It went from a mouth to ear. People got to know me. I used to I study a lot of about herbs during that time. And one of the things that disturbed me is how can I identify people's health issues. Many people who knows me now I'm quite known, but many people don't know that the first thing that pushed me into this world is that I wanted to know how can I identify a person future problems regarding health, personality. So I used to make this herb. I used to take, for example, hypericum in the summer and olive tree leaves. Then I used to put it in a big jar and mix it with alcohol. And after 30 days, you get the essence of the herb. And I used to give it to people free. I didn't even charge for it. Free for many issues. And one of my expertise, and one of my expertise was that I used to do a mixture of herbs for people who have mental issues, like people who suffer from tension, anxiety. So I used to do it from a mixture of few herbs.
Right.
And that's how I started. And then I started to get into the occult. Like I started in the beginning to learn palm reading, and I was reading a lot about astrology. And then in a very early age, I got married very early, around the age of 21.
Oh.
And during that, and like before my marriage, I got to know someone because I wanted to know a lot about astrology. So I started to study astrology from someone in our city, in Tel Aviv, in this place, and in Ramat Gan actually. And during the time that I studied from him, I started to develop the first 2 years, because I'm a person that I'm a very rebellious person. I never, like, if I learn something, I always look for something new. Like I always look for a new way to see what's wrong in the system, why this is working like that. And I the minute I started to learn it, in about 7 months, I was just in the level of my teacher. And I learned, yes, I learned it very quickly. And I started to develop methods to read people's chart in a totally different ways. And then I got into Kabbalah, and then I got into the angels books.
What is Kabbalah? Kabbalah?
Kabbalah is a Jewish art. Kabbalah and the Chinese astrology, it's a very, very, also Vedic astrology. All these three are very, very ancient and old system, to predict people's future through the stars and the stars, the planet, and all that. So I started to learn astrology, and I developed new ways to interpret the chart in a way that other people could not do. And then I started to, this is the book, the Angel Book, Raziel the Angel. It's a very, very ancient book. People cannot read it because it's written, I will show you. You see, it's written in a very ancient Hebrew language.
Oh.
So most people, even Jewish people, will have a problem to read it because it's written in Aramaic and a difficult Hebrew language, very old. But during that time, I learned it because there were healers that were very old, okay, that even my grandfather, who lived in another village city, so they used to do all the medicines and the herbs, and they learned the methods, how to identify people who have a certain problem, how to know what is the problem by studying their date of birth, the planet that are ruling them. So this is the way I started. I started to develop a complete different way.
Okay.
And a few years, about 2 to 3 years after that, I started to get very deep into tarot, and I got straight into Hermetic Tarot. Hermetic Tarot is not, the Hermetism is a little different than ordinary tarot, because Hermetism is based of the symbols and the aspect of the nature, and it's a little bit different than normal tarot. I mean, the reading with Hermetic cards.
Okay.
So that's how I got into it, and I developed some new way that until today, I honestly to say, I never really shared it. I did teach. I was always teaching the basics, like when I was 30 years old, 40 years old, 50 years old. I was long time in India, living in the mountain. I was 11 years there, on and off all the time. So during that time, I was teaching, but it was very difficult to teach the deep secret knowledge, because there's a lot of people who are not ready for it. You understand? And also in our community, one of the things that I learned a lot from my grandfather and from my family and from and the Angels book, that it's a little dangerous for people in a certain age who doesn't have this level of awareness to get and to understand a lot of things regarding human nature and human life. Why it's dangerous? It's dangerous because when you do it, you're starting to understand the metaphysical secrets of the occult, You are exposing yourself in some way to certain energies that cannot be seen, that can harm a person who doesn't meditate or a person who doesn't know how to protect himself. In the ordinary world, you will hear people saying grounding, grounding, okay? But like people who do tarot, or people like in India, most people, they learn tarot from books. Because when I came to India in 1998, 1999, the only woman who did tarot, it was, as far as I know, it was Sunita Menon, if you remember her.
I know, I met her.
Understand? So I came there, no one knew nothing what I'm talking. They only knew astrology, you understand? And then I brought it there and I started to see people, and slowly, tarot become very popular in India. And now everyone in India want to know tarot, you understand?
Yeah.
So this is the period that I started.
It's like half knowledge is very dangerous. Do you think that it has come with a legacy to you? So you already came with that in your knowledge, whereas it can be misused also. I think
that's the problem that I'm trying. I can show you emails from people writing me, please sir, teach me the secret. They don't understand that there is some kind of preparations that you need to be into it to know how to deal with this world. Because it's very difficult to explain. Maybe when you will continue with your questions, I will explain you about the world that is not being seen, that we cannot see. You understand? I will explain you about it. Basically, there is three kinds of people. There is one that he doesn't know that he does it. It's a three level of awareness. There is one that he doesn't know that he doesn't know. There is one that know that he doesn't know, and there is one that know that he knows. And I will explain you that you will understand the level of consciousness. The one who doesn't know that he doesn't know, it's people that normally they live like robots, because they wake up in the morning, they know that they have to get married. So they get married, and they know they need to get a job. So they will go and get a job. It's like if you compare a diamond with many shapes to a diamond with 3-4 shapes. So when the consciousness is very attached to the senses, the person starting his life as doesn't know that he doesn't know, because he's not aware that there are things that he doesn't know, because he is communicating with his senses. He believes what he sees. He believes that the taste, what he tastes, is good or bad. He has his convictions in his mind to judge the world in a good or bad. And everything around him is very limited. It's not fair to call it a low level of consciousness. This is a level of consciousness that was not exposed yet to the secret. And there is the second level of consciousness that one knows that he doesn't know. It's the moment, for example, that you have a broken heart and you are crying from pain at home, or you had an accident where you fell on the floor and you had the NDE, a near-death experience. In that moment, the soul starting to ask questions. This is the one that know that he doesn't know, which means that the soul suddenly see that there are things that are beyond. There are something happened to me. Why everything I do failing? Why, or even a man rich. I have a man rich who suddenly asking, I said, the money is not interesting me anymore. I mean, I'm not interested in that. It doesn't give me any happiness anymore. You understand? So there is a moment where the soul starting to fulfill the purpose in this incarnation, and the soul starting to ask questions. Why is it happening to me? Why I'm suffering? Well, this is a second level of consciousness that one knows that he doesn't know. Because when you starting to ignore your senses and you understand that whatever you see, it's an illusion, you are immediately understanding that you are in a level of I want to know. So you are in the second level of consciousness, one that know that he doesn't know. And once you know that you don't know, you are seeking knowledge. You will start to investigate. You will ask yourself questions. You will meditate. You can even do things like a housewife. You can wash the dishes, and you can start feeling things. You will feel people more. You are actually becoming more empath. You are connecting to people not through the senses only, not through the physical, not through the sex, the first attraction, not through the eye. You stop being judgmental. You don't judge people very quickly because you know that there is something beyond that. Okay? And there is the level, with a very high level, that one know that he know.